our lives are not as normal as other people that haven't been abused. The abuse has just changed their attitude to life, changed their attitude to people. But as abuse victim myself, I'm glad that it's all out in the open now, that everybody knows, the whole world knows. And the Catholic Church knows, and they knew all the time, but they can't deny now that they do know, which they have done throughout years and years and years of their silence. And instead of taking action when they knew the abuse was taking place, they could have saved lives upon lives, and the torture for families and children, and just their silence just has ruined more lives that you could think of.
Il fallimento delle autorità ecclesiastiche, vescovi, superiori religiosi, sacerdoti e altri nell'affrontare adeguatamente questi crimini repugnanti ha giustamente suscitato indignazione e rimane causa di sofferenza e di vergogna per la comunità cattolica.
He said he is keeping bishops accountable, he is removing bishops, but I said to him that he may have removed some, but they're being allowed to resign and walk away, so nobody knows that they have been guilty of anything.
You know, you only have to do a few Google searches to see loads of examples of popes and bishops saying, we didn't know. Like the rest of society, we didn't even understand such things were possible. They did, they lied.
Dublin, août 2018. Pour la première fois, le pape François s'excuse publiquement des atrocités commises par des prêtres de l'Église catholique irlandaise. 500 000 fidèles étaient attendus, seulement 130 000 se sont déplacés. Ils étaient 1 million il y a 40 ans pour la venue de Jean-Paul II. L'Irlande est le 5e pays européen en termes de population catholique. L'Église est enracinée dans la culture du pays, mais aussi dans ses lieux de pouvoir. Historiquement, les Irlandais ont placé leur confiance et leur choix politique entre les mains de cette institution toute puissante. Mais depuis 2002, différents rapports et enquêtes ont mis en exergue plus de 15 000 cas d'abus sexuels commis entre les années 70 et 90. Les abus perpétrés par des membres du clergé ne sont pas récents, pourtant les excuses du pape François ne sont arrivées qu'en 2018. Trop tard pour certains. Encore aujourd'hui, sa visite reste controversée, tant les Irlandais se sentent trahis. Alors que des centaines de suicides ont fait suite aux abus, ceux qui ont réussi à y faire face ont été nommés les survivants. Martin Gallagher est l'un d'entre eux. À l'âge de 12 ans, il a été abusé sexuellement par Eugene Green, un prêtre de la paroisse de Donegal au nord-ouest de l'Irlande. Il nous répond avec à ses côtés un autre Martin, Martin Ridge, ancien inspecteur de police, le premier à avoir écouté son histoire.
When we were younger and abused, there was nobody to talk to that we could trust. The priests we couldn't go near. They would laugh at us and call us liars. We couldn't tell our parents because they would have to go to the priest and he'd do the same thing to them. We couldn't tell the guards because the guards and the priests and teachers were all big buddies and they stuck together, so we were alone. Martin here came along and started to investigate Eugene Green, and that opened up a big page in our life because it released a lot of pressure, anxiety, depression, all those bad feelings we were building up for years. So just by talking to Martin the first day, that lifted a big load from my shoulders that somebody was going to help me in the end.
En 2008, Martin Ridge publie Briser le silence, un livre qui retrace l'enquête qu'il a menée sur le prêtre Eugene Green pour des faits commis entre les années 60 et 90. Il y accuse l'Église catholique de n'avoir volontairement rien fait pour stopper ces décennies d'abus, alors que des plaintes avaient déjà été déposées à l'encontre du prêtre.
I was glad I was there for them because they educated me too, and they're educating society, because those people are experts because they know what they're talking about, you see. So again, Martin doesn't need my platitudes, but I'm so grateful, and so is the public, for the likes of Martin, like, you know, and thank God he's getting his own life back on track, you know, and it's not easy. We all have bad days, you know, and it can come back and grab us with fear and contempt and everything, but we have to be careful too, because anger can be self-destructive as well, though maybe it's good to hold on to some of it too, to realise what's going on, you know. I would like to say thank you, Martin, again and again and again.
L'histoire de Martin n'est pas un cas isolé. Les allégations d'abus sexuels concernent en Irlande près de 14 500 enfants pour des crimes commis parfois pendant plusieurs décennies. En Europe, l'Irlande est l'un des pays les plus touchés. À titre de comparaison, la Belgique, l'Allemagne et la France ont enregistré chacune quelques centaines de plaintes depuis 2010. Entre 1975 et 2004, à Dublin, 12 prêtres étaient responsables des 2/3 des plaintes déposées. Pour lutter contre ces dérives, le diocèse a mis en place en 2002 le service de protection de l'enfance aux côtés d'une agence dirigée par l'État. Andrew Fagan en est le directeur et le coordinateur depuis 2010.
When it became known that, priests had behaved in an abusive way towards children, that was understood as a problem for the priest, not as a problem for the child or for other children. And for a long time, and it's not as if the diocesan authorities didn't do anything about those situations. They did do things, but they were all about trying to fix up the priest and send him back. And they were not child-centered. They did not prioritize the safety of children. Even though lots of things have changed, I'm not sure the perception has changed. I think that a lot of people still think it's a bit risky to allow your children to be involved in church activities. So I would say that there are a lot of parents who have made a decision to distance themselves from the church.
Frank Reburn est un prêtre de la paroisse de Glasnevin, au nord de la capitale. Il met en pratique les directives du diocèse sur la protection des enfants. Et comme tous les prêtres en Irlande, il a passé un test psychologique avant d'entrer en fonction.
If I'm meeting with parents and we're preparing their children for the sacrament, say for confirmation or for communion, we will explain to the parents that we have a child safeguarding policy in action here in our parish. No adult is alone with a child. Especially here in our own parish, in our sacristy, no adult is alone. That if children are on the premises, we make sure that they're under the care of those who have been Garda vetted and those who have completed the training course. Also, if you have any visiting priests, if you have anybody coming into our sacristy, they are obliged to sign in. And we also, we would ask parents, we'd ask guardians of children not to let their child go to the toilet on their own, that they stay there, that they stay in the public area, just making sure that their child is okay. It's been a horrible chapter in the history of the church and in our lives. So it's a really horrible chapter. So I would be hugely passionate, and I would do anything that I possibly could to make sure no child is hurt in this church.
Si l'Église doit aujourd'hui se repentir, c'est aussi à la suite de grandes révélations, comme celle de Darren McGavin, 48 ans, survivant d'abus sexuels. Son agresseur, Tony Walsh, est actuellement en prison pour le viol de plus de 200 enfants de la commune de Ballyfermot, où Darren a grandi dans un contexte familial violent.
At the age of 7, when I went to that school, he became the parish priest. So he was adorned. He was also an impersonator of Elvis Presley. So he was in a thing called the All Priest Show, and they went around the country in halls and clubs. They got paid. So everyone thought, isn't he brilliant? Isn't he great? How amazing is he? And then when he talks on the pulpit about his Lord Jesus Christ, Jesus is my friend. I'm going to save you. He went home and told me parents. So the dirty secret was out. I now know you're beating that child and your wife. So now both my parents, which were adults, were vulnerable to the priest and in his pocket, because he knows their dirty secret. So the priest suggested that I take your son out of this environment because you've damaged him. He's acting out and you're beating him more and you don't know how to deal with him. If he comes with me, I can teach him love, and he can serve morning masses, and we'll bring him to lovely places. Take a bit of pressure off you. To somebody, a mother of 5 children, they were all going mad, and the husband was very rarely there, and when he was beating the shit out of her. That was brilliant. My child is safe. What if I was to tell you that a young boy was tied up over a coffee table, bound by his hands to his ankles, and noticed a candle burning, a thin one, but just thought it was a clerical candle. And while I was told that I'd burn in hell for all eternity, I was raped with the burning candle.
À l'âge de 12 ans, le jeune Darren réalise en regardant un documentaire sur la pédophilie que ses échanges avec le prêtre de sa paroisse ne sont pas normaux. À partir de ce jour, il consultera une pédopsychiatre avec une peur en tête que le juge ne croit pas son témoignage lors du procès.
The lady gave me the doll and says to me, "Can you show me what happened?" And I said, "You want me to stick me cock and me penis inside the doll in front of you?" And she said, "What?" I said, "But you told me to show you. So you want me to rip the doll and ride the doll?" She goes, "No, just show me." I said, "I don't understand." I said, "I'd have to do it." I said, "But you said it was wrong. So why do you want me to do something that's wrong? I don't understand that." So they were like, "That kind of makes sense. We didn't come across that before." So I said, "How about just asking me what happened?" So when I was asking, I had to keep asking them and taking the tissues at 12 and saying, "Are you okay?" Because I had traumatised them. To me, it was okay, because I was used to it.
Aujourd'hui thérapeute auprès de ceux qui ont été abusés, Darren McGavin a survécu à 5 tentatives de suicide. Rares sont les victimes comme Darren qui ont saisi les autorités, elles sont à peine 10%. En 2014, dans une interview accordée à la Repubblica, le pape François évaluait à 2% le nombre de prêtres pédophiles au sein de l'Église de par le monde, incluant évêques et cardinaux. Pourtant, dans le cadre de l'enquête Spotlight à Boston, Richard Sipe, psychiatre et ancien prêtre, parlait de 6%. Selon lui, un pédophile dans l'Église commet des abus sur 250 victimes dans sa vie. Ce qui représenterait pour l'Irlande 280 prêtres pédophiles pour 70 000 victimes, et pour toute l'Europe, environ 11 200 prêtres qui auraient abusé de plus de 2 800 000 enfants. L'ampleur du phénomène aurait poussé l'Église à dissimuler ces abus. Colm O'Gorman, survivant lui aussi et directeur d'Amnesty International Irlande, se bat quotidiennement pour obtenir réparation.
The way that the church conducted itself and the hypocrisy and the corruption at the heart of the church was revealed, and that led to people in Ireland rejecting the moral authority of the church. It led to an end of the political dominance of the Catholic Church here in Ireland. You know, for decades, the Vatican called us liars. You know, they said we were telling lies, that we were fantasists, that this was an anti-Catholic agenda, that there was no cover-up. So now the Pope says there was a cover-up and we're meant to think he's great for acknowledging the truth. That's the minimum.
Marie Collins est elle aussi une survivante. Très active dans le domaine de la prévention des abus et des dérives pédopornographiques sur Internet, elle était l'un des symboles de la Commission pontificale pour la protection des mineurs, instituée en 2014 par le pape François pour lutter contre les abus sexuels. Elle a démissionné de cette commission en 2017, lasse de la résistance au sein du Vatican.
The commission was experts outside the church, child protection experts from every area, brought together to advise the Pope, to bring expertise into the church from outside. And I went along with it because if the church was sincere in wanting to change, I thought that I should work to help. But I found after a couple of years that there was so much resistance in the Vatican to change. They were undermining the work of the Commission, they were resisting the work of the Commission, and really we were making recommendations, the Pope was approving them, and they were not being implemented, so it was a waste of time. The Curia, the civil service, the Pope's civil service, they saw us on the Commission as people coming in from the outside and interfering. The importance of child protection was ignored, really. It was more politics.
La décision récente du pape François de lever le secret pontifical sur les affaires de pédophilie montre néanmoins un désir de transparence. Désormais, les plaintes et témoignages concernant des abus sexuels dans les archives du Vatican pourront être transmis aux autorités civiles. En 2015, les Irlandais ont approuvé le mariage homosexuel, puis en 2018, le droit à l'avortement. Alors que près de 80% d'Irlandais se disent catholiques, ce sont les mêmes qui ont voté pour ces deux réformes situées à l'opposé des directives de l'Église. D'où ce paradoxe, la société irlandaise reste culturellement catholique, mais s'éloigne de l'Église en tant qu'institution. Une tendance qui se généralise en Europe, seul continent où la population catholique a diminué ces dernières années avant de commencer à stagner. Après 20 ans, l'Irlande tente de panser ses blessures et d'améliorer la sécurité de ses enfants. Le pays a compris que l'Église seule ne réglerait rien. Une leçon importante alors que d'autres nations n'en sont qu'au stade des révélations, comme en Australie, France, Pologne ou aux États-Unis, où les victimes d'abus sexuels au sein de l'Église commencent enfin à se faire entendre. Toutes ces voix témoignent de l'ampleur du phénomène, mais surtout de la réponse encore trop fréquente de l'Église, appliquer la loi du silence, ou pire, être complice, comme en attestent de récentes révélations dans l'affaire McCarrick. Homme d'église américain promu archevêque puis cardinal par Jean-Paul II, pourtant au courant des accusations d'abus sexuels dont il faisait l'objet. Il faudra attendre jusqu'en 2019 pour que Theodore McCarrick soit finalement défroqué. Alors c'est plutôt vers les instances séculières que se tournent les victimes pour se faire entendre et espérer pouvoir un jour se reconstruire.
On keeping my own faith, yes, I've kept my own faith, and my beliefs, but the institution of the church does not mean that much to me now. The institutional church has really, I've lost all trust in it. I still have a relationship with God, and I will still pray, and I still consider myself a Catholic.
It's a great question. Do I have faith? I don't have religious faith, but I have, I suppose, an even greater faith in humanity, in goodness, in life, in healing. An even greater faith in something that I know to be true, and that is that no matter how awful the harm done, no matter how awful the offence caused, that if we're prepared to own it, to face it with courage and with truth and with compassion and with love and with a commitment to moving forward, then healing and recovery and progress isn't just possible, it's inevitable. And that this I know, this I have unshakable faith in.
It's the living in silence which is the most awful thing. And for so many victims, it's been too much, and they've taken their own lives, as we know. So we have to think about the countries where this is still happening and think of the children there.